In 2000, we get the third installment of the Scream franchise, once again directed by Wes Craven, starring Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Patrick Dempsey. Scream 3 is about taking place in Hollywood. A new Ghostface appears and starts terrorizing the cast of Stab 3, the in-universe movie of course, the original events of the Scream film. This, of course, forces our previous victims to confront the terror once again. And we're going to talk about this movie and help you decide whether or not it's the right one to watch as a Christian right now. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Of course, Scream 3 is rated R for some strong, bloody, graphic violence, as well as, of course, some strong language and some suspenseful moments. So we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching the third installment of Scream, any theological themes present within it, and wrap it up with my own personal thoughts on the film. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. In case you are brand new here to the channel, which by the way, welcome. We're so glad you're here. The conviction meter is 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. This is a resource to help you figure out whether or not Scream 3 aligns with the convictions that God has given you. And this is very in line with the 2 previous installments of the Scream films. There are lots of stabbings. That is the way Ghostface tends to attack his victims. And so there's lots of stabbing that is a part of this movie, as well as several murders that are once again a part of this movie. Every time Ghostface has appeared, at least one or more people, at least 2, 3. There's a lot of death that happens within these movies, and so that once again continues within this film. At the same time too, there's punching, kicking, hitting, using whatever is around you to attack Ghostface. Like, there is just so much kind of action or just kind of more brutal violence that is a part of this film. People are thrown, people are pushed. One person is essentially shoved out a window and lands on the concrete, unfortunately ending his life. There's a lot here within this film that is just up the ante in terms of just its violence and its gore, but like I said, it's very on par with the original 2 films, making this once again a 5 out of 5 in this category. And I would foresee for the rest of the franchise, we're going to continue to be at 5 out of 5 with this category in particular. Our next category is lust, and there is a little bit here once again, a bit more than the second one. And I would say maybe even slightly around the same kind of territory, a similar moderate to a little bit more than a moderate level like the original Scream. So let's dive into it. First things first, we do have people talking about sex and sleeping together, things of that sort. That has, of course, been a part of the last 2 films. It continues to be a part of this one as well. At the same time, too, there is a scene in which a character, a woman character in particular, is taking a shower. And while, of course, there is the classic kind of fogged shower glass look due to heat from a warm shower, you can obviously see her figure from the back. But the camera shot is pretty much around from head to almost kind of calf level, in which we do see her butt on screen. So that's a part of the film. At the same time too, the same character wraps herself in a towel to get out because, suspense and attack while someone's taking a shower. The classic horror tropes that you would expect from a movie that is very much a homage / parody to classic horror movies and things of that sort. So that is a part of the movie because of the fact that it does have a bit of brief nudity. In a sense, we are going to give this a 4 out of 5 in this category, just to be on the safe side here with this. Our next category is substances, and the most we do see is a few drinks here and there on screen. There also is a little bit of smoking here as well. That is a part of the film, but it's not over-exaggerated. It's not a ton that's contained within the movie. A lot of it is drinks and things of that sort. There is also a party in which a lot of characters are drinking. There is no explicit drunkenness that's a part of the movie or anything of that sort that you should kind of be wary of, but Again, all of these are a part of the film. We are going to give this a 2 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is profanity, and hell is used. The D-I and D-A words are used. The B-I and S-H words are also used within this film. There are also multiple uses of the F word. Particularly later in the film, there also is kind of a scene in which it's used almost every other word, as if we're in like a middle school at one point or another when a kid or a few of them have just learned how to use curse words. And so it kind of felt like that, but that's more for the review side rather than right now. But because of the fact that it does use a lot of language here, profanity, things of that sort, it also does have a few words of like OMG or Jesus, things of that sort. We are going to give this a 5 out of 5 in this category, once again, specifically because of the amount of F words that are used within this film. Our last category is intense/horror scenes. This is a horror movie, which means there are going to be horror elements contained within this film. Suspense is ramped up. There are jump scares throughout the movie, and there are a lot of moments that just put you on the edge of your seat on purpose. And while I will say the fact that there is definitely less jump scares than the first two, there still is a good amount here, but there also is a heavier influence of PTSD on Sidney Prescott within this film, specifically dealing with seeing her dead mother for some reason in this one. It's very prevalent that she struggles with PTSD of just her mother's death, as well as a few other things as well, due to the nature of just what she's gone through over the last 3 films. And so that is something to kind of keep in mind here as well. But there is also lots of moments, like I said, that are to make you sit on the edge of your seat, bring fear, bring scares, all of that sort. It is going to be a 5 out of 5 in this category as well. So our grand total on the conviction meter is going to be a 21 out of 25. Obviously, your big headlining categories, as is the case with the past 2 Scream films, and also in this one, your violence and gore, your profanity, and of course your intense/horror scenes are obviously all very high in this movie, so that is something to keep in mind. At the same time too, it does use a good amount of just lustful convictions that may pop up within this film, just as something to keep in mind. Obviously, there's a lot in this movie, and if anything we talked about compromises your convictions in any way, shape, or form, don't worry about watching Scream 3. Your convictions are more important than any movie you're ever going to watch because they are God-given, right? So make sure that you use the convictions that God has given you to steer you, guide you, and help you along in your own walk with Jesus. Convictions are going to look different for everybody. For some people, horror films are not what they enjoy. For some people, horror films are okay. But at the end of the day, what matters most is each of us pursuing after Jesus with all mind, body, soul, and strength, to pursue him with all we have, to make him the number one priority in our lives. And I'm saying this as a reminder, not just for myself, but hopefully for you as well. Again, Scream 3 may not align with your convictions. If it doesn't, don't worry about watching the film. Your convictions are more important. That leads us beautifully into our next topic as we dive into some theological themes that are present within Scream 3. And I will say that there isn't anything explicitly about Jesus, the Bible, Christianity, things of that sort that are a part of this movie. I do want to make note of the fact that there is a lot of topic and conversations about just sin that is prevalent throughout this movie and really prevalent throughout the franchise. I mean, the Bible's pretty clear about how we live in a broken and fallen world. We see how the world breaks in the beginning of Genesis. Just like with that, we see how broken and fallen our world is with, of course, Ghostface, someone actively trying to kill people, but also in the surrounding parts of our villain. I don't want to give too much spoilers, but the reason why he does what he does is very much a quote-unquote, I guess you could say, traumatic response to his childhood. At the same time, too, it is very much a revenge story. And revenge is not for us. We are not to take revenge. That is not something that we are to do because we are not perfectly justified to take quote-unquote revenge. Revenge means getting back at somebody for a wrongdoing. And that is something we, especially as followers of Jesus, are not supposed to do at all. Justice is what we are to seek, but ultimately justice is the Lord. Revenge is outside of the bounds of justice. It's seeking our own form, our own skewed version of what justice looks like. And obviously, we are not perfect. We are flawed individuals, and that's okay because we have a creator, God, who is perfect in all of his ways. His justice is perfect. So anytime we try to seek our own revenge, seek our own form of justice, it's going to be skewed. It's going to be wrong. It's going to be not God's form of justice. So let him handle it. But I do want to preface that we should be seeking biblical justice, but ultimately it is God who is the judge and the perfect one to rule justice. So, all of that to say, it's not explicitly a big overarching part of the film. It does deal with, of course, kind of the origins and how the villain does and why he does what he does. But it is something I want to make a note of, something I want to keep in mind, especially in watching this film. It was kind of something I noticed, which for me was definitely pretty cool. But again, there's nothing explicitly about Christianity, the Bible, the church, Jesus contained within Scream 3. Speaking of which, it's time to dive into what I think of Scream 3. All bets are off, or that's usually how it goes within the third film. There are a few things to like here. I know. Some of you are getting ready to type in the comments, but hear me out. The cameos here are absolutely fantastic. Kevin Smith, Patrick Warburton, Carrie Fisher. Every time those characters came up on screen, I got very excited. I'm a sucker for a good cameo, especially from it's an actor that I recognize. And boy, is there a few here. Absolutely enjoyed that. And that is pretty much about it for the Scream 3. I really should have realized that when we had a bad haircut for Courtney Cox. Oh no! That this movie was going to be not good at all. I really should have set my expectations to that point. Not that I had any crazy expectations, but good Lord. I also will say this, I love how they actually spend more time focusing on the stab films. I thought that was pretty cool. But even within that, the story in and of itself is, yes, fairly plain, yes, fairly easy, but the dialogue is just not there. I've been kind of told by some friends of mine who do and have watched the Scream movies in the past that there is kind of an element of parody that is a part of this franchise, or at least the beginnings of it. This film feels very much more like a parody compared to the other two, and I'm specifically talking about in the fact of its dialogue, because it is just not good. It actually kind of makes the prequels look almost half decent in some ways, not every way, because they're still this.
I don't like sand.
But the dialogue could have been a lot better, because the premise and the idea is actually fine. The other thing I'm not a fan of is the way they continue to really villainize Maureen Prescott. They take her from a character who, while yes, made some bad decisions, but was tragically ended, into almost an outright villain of the franchise, almost as if like this big bad of the franchise. And I'm not crazy about that idea. I don't think that was the right way to go about this one. But again, what do I know? But either way, it was not the wisest choice they could have made for really the final film of this franchise, because they did add a lot of new layers. They're, of course, expanding the lore, expanding the story. Some of the things did okay. Most of it didn't really work for me, and it didn't make sense. And specifically what they did with Maureen Prescott, I think, was just not a good move at all. Another thing that didn't help this movie at all is either the over or under acting by certain actors. Granted, I understand that this is a movie talking about shooting a movie, dealing with it being all-encompassing in a movie. That's too many times I said movie. But the thing that frustrated me is obviously you can exaggerate and have all that stuff when you're filming your fake movie. That's fine. What I'm not a fan of is the over and under acting when the actual movie, Scream 3, not Stab 3, when Scream 3 is going on. It just doesn't work all that well, because some actors are really trying their best to really embrace their role and things of that sort. And then you have others which it just feels like they're just there to get a paycheck. They're just there to, do a little bit. And Part of that could be their characterization, but for the most part, it still doesn't necessarily feel that way. So it made some of the tone and some of the character interactions feel very awkward, feel very weird, and not really believable at all. Overall, this movie is just not good.
I like it, but not a lot. I don't like it.
There are a few things that were fine. The cameos were enjoyable. I love the idea of them really embracing the Stab franchise within Scream. Thought that was fun. But other than that, it's a really not good third film. In all seriousness though, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. It's not good. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, or the worst film I've ever reviewed. That title is still Snow White from last year in 2025. We don't talk about that one. But that's just my opinion. So let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think of Scream 3? Let's chat all about it in the comments. While you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. And we have a few video recommendations over here. If you want to find out my thoughts on Scream 2, it's right over here. There's also another video here as well for you that YouTube is suggesting to you. I hope they did a good job because this is a mystery to me. And we'll see you all in the next one.